Hello, my name is Jim. Welcome to my booktube channel about books and reading and stuff. In this video I'd like to tell you about how I go about choosing what I read. I'd also be interested in the comments below if you tell me how you choose which book to read next. Thank you. At school the focus was mostly on English literature. For my O-level in English literature we studied Chaucer, Shakespeare and Goldsmith, She Stoops to Conquer, which didn't inspire me very much. It seems that most of what we were taught was the writings of dead white men. It was not very diverse and it was not very engaging. In my mid-teens I got into science fiction and I'd borrow lots of books from the library. I'd usually look for the yellow Gollancz books, which had many different science fiction authors like Clifford D. Seamack, Roger Zelazny, Robert Silverberg. But again, it was mostly white and male. I did read Anne McCaffrey. When I got into crime fiction, I then read a lot more women writers. Writers like Sarah Paretsky, Linda Barnes, Kathy Reichs, Agatha Christie. I think women are very good with the psychology of what drives people to crime, and I find their works interesting. This book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X, has been very influential to me. In it he talks about the language. English is a very racist language. Everything black, black male, black lies is bad. And things which are white are okay. White lies are okay, black lies are not. White magic, yeah, that's for good. Black magic is for evil. So our language shapes the way we think. George Orwell taught us this as well in 1984. So I realize I have to come out of my comfort zone to have a more diverse base. If I show you what I'm reading now, I can tell you some of the reasoning as to why I chose these books. Here in Georgia, as I've talked before in other videos, there's a limited choice. So that's restricting what I can and can't read. If I'm really desperate for a book, I can get it on Kindle, which I've done recently with The Keening by Margaret Pinard, and I did with Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, because I really wanted to read these books and I hadn't come across them locally. I've also started Albert Camus' The First Man. I started this a while ago. I really enjoyed L'Étranger by Albert Camus. I was able to read that in French. I talked about that in my debut video. Camus was a fascinating writer. He's also an African voice, even though he's a pied noir. He's not a black African, he's a white African, but he was born in Algeria, so he has an interesting perspective on colonialism. Another white African voice is Helen Paton, who was very much against apartheid. Cry the Beloved Country is the story of a pastor who goes to Johannesburg to look for his delinquent son and what happens. This was written in the 1940s. I chose this because I'm interested in all countries. I've read a lot about South Africa, mainly from Andre Brink, and I should in the future look for some black South African writers to read about the situation. Akutagawa, The Life of a Stupid Man. I picked this one up because it's short, it's very short, and I want to have read more books this year than I actually have, but a lot of the books I've been reading have been very long, like Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens, which is over 800 pages. This is also a Japanese writer. I've read a lot of Murakami, but I haven't read diversely amongst other Japanese writers. I want to read more Japanese writers. Mrs. Dalloway, Virginia Woolf. I chose this one because it was available in my local bookshop. They have 3 shelves of books in English, including many classics. So this was not too expensive. This was 9 Larry, which is about $3. I've heard about Virginia Woolf for a long time, but I've never read any of her works, and I was interested to see what it was like. in the video where I asked people to recommend what I should read next, this was suggested, so now I'm reading it. One factor which influences whether I pick up a book or not, or choose a book to read, is if I've read the author before. George R.R. Martin, I read his book Fevre, which was a standalone book about vampires going up and down the Mississippi River in the 19th century, which was a fantastic read. I've watched the Game of Thrones series. I didn't read the first book, but I read the second book, Clash of Kings, which I really enjoyed. And I'm told this one, Storm of Swords, is the best of the series, so I'm keen to read more of this. I'd like more diversity in my reading. I enjoyed this. This was Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, about a Nigerian woman who emigrates to America and then emigrates back to Nigeria. I haven't read many black women writers. I also realise I haven't read many indigenous writers. When I'm reading about South America, when I'm reading about Africa, it's usually through the eyes of white authors, like Barbara Kingsolver was very good, the Posionwood Bible about what happened in Congo, but again, she's a white American talking about the situation. In art, I like the art of Gordon Bennett. Gordon Bennett's painting Outsider is dated from 1988. This was the date of the bicentennial celebration in Australia, the 200 years since the first boatload of convicts was dumped on the Australian shores. Aboriginals felt very isolated by this celebration, and they didn't feel like they had much of a voice in their own country. Outsider was painted while Bennett was still in art school. He appropriates famous works including Van Gogh's Starry Skies and his bedroom in Arles. And on the bed we see these Greek masks which represent European culture. Outsider is a painting charged with feelings of frustration and confusion, the Aboriginal people. He got his inspiration from the tragic things that happened between the indigenous Aboriginal people from Australia and the white settlers. The outsider figure that we see in the bedroom could be seen as Gordon Bennett himself. It's not just black and indigenous authors. Before I came to Georgia, I didn't know a single Georgian author. I didn't know Rustaveli, I didn't know Rajab Shavala, I didn't know Nodar Dumbadze or Gordon Bennett. So now I'm trying to educate myself about the Georgian literary canon. This is Nodar Dumbadze's poems, lexeby. This is for children, but I want to read this. But my Georgian is still... So this has been quite a rambling video about how I choose what to read and how I should extend my choice to have more diverse selection in the future. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like and subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.